The Background Check podcast is brought to you by Data Screening. They do background checks. Go to datascreening.com to find out why you should use a PBSA accredited background check company. From standard pre-employment screening to best practices for hiring and onboarding in regulated industries, we're having conversations that truly matter in HR. That's the Background Check podcast with your host and VP of Sales and Marketing at Data Screening, Fred Amakuchi.
So the power of how you combine people is really a game changer. One of the things that we did back in 2018 was we became partners with Predictive Index, which is a behavioral assessment tool. Mm-hmm. And that has been an absolute game changer for our team as well as for our clients that are using Predictive Index, not just to hire. I mean, it definitely is a game changer for hiring to particularly understand a person's full behaviors. So not just their knowledge, skills, and abilities, but their natural behaviors, their strengths and their blind spots. But then also when you have a strategic goal or a mission, who are you combining from your team to achieve that? And do they have the natural behaviors to get them to success? Or are you putting people on that assignment based on who has the most time available, not who's going to be the strongest at being able to deliver? So there's a lot of power in building a team that's extremely effective, knows themselves, knows each other, and is aligned with the mission and has the natural behaviors to be able to achieve it.
I did read about that. A couple of days ago, I actually logged on and took the test, the Predictive Index. Very cool. I didn't get the results back yet, actually, but I have a meeting with one of the reps to talk about it. But I love the questions. I have a psychology background, so I know the type of behavioral testing they were going through. And it's funny how a lot of words that describe someone's behaviors and personalities are similar, but each word is slightly different, which can change the outlook of how a person actually behaves or thinks they behave. Because the part of the test I took, the question was, how do you think people see you as a leader, how you should perform as a leader? And it had like 50 words, and you could pick from those words. So I did that portion. And then the next one was, how do you see yourself? And it was all similar words. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool, because you don't know how people actually see you. You may think people are seeing you in a certain way, but they're really not. And I think a lot of leaders, managers don't really understand that part because they're just so geared up and maybe growing the business. They don't realize the individual relationships they have with all of their employees is more important and must be focused on than what they're actually doing. That's what I think. One of the things, you mentioned people's behavior. I've read a lot of books on negotiation. There's a book by Roger Dawson. He's an English guy, has an accent, and I think I brought this up in one of our previous episodes, but he always talks about whenever you're negotiating, don't focus so much on the deal itself. Focus on the person that you're dealing with. And it's going to help you more within the negotiation than any moving parts within the negotiation. So, and I think that's how you can actually get the best out of people, knowing them. And because a lot of times companies will give people goals, and I think that's wrong. I think the people should give the company the goals that they want to achieve, and that way they're more on the same page. I don't know how do you feel about that, goals?
Well, I mean, so one of the things that Predictive Index will help reveal to managers and supervisors about their direct reports is what drives someone and what their needs and motivators are. So some people, the need to socialize, the need to have freedom of movement, the need to work independently are very strong natural drivers. if you don't allow people to be in a place where they can use their natural drives, you're going to have higher levels of turnover because everything is going to feel harder. It's not going to feel comfortable. I'm probably not going to enjoy it as much.
Yeah.
And if you understand who on your team is more collaborative, who's more team-oriented, who prefers to work on a team versus working independently, then you can align people with the needs of the business so that the goals are meaningful to both parties and enriching. So one of the questions that you had asked me is, how is recruiting different from 5 years ago?
Yeah.
So, 5 years ago was 2017. And, again, I've been a professional for 32 years. So at all points in time, let's not delude ourselves with this concept that there's always been an abundance of highly qualified talent. But what we're seeing now in this environment, particularly coming out of the pandemic, is people are doing a reevaluation. What is important to them? What resonates with them? What motivates them to get up in the morning? And we're seeing a lot of people who are interested in changing careers, having opportunities to learn and grow and experience new things. So by understanding their natural behaviors, you can align them with a new role or in a new job where maybe they don't have all the technical skills. But a technical skill is much easier to teach than teaching people how to behave. So if you think about it, we hire people for what they know and what their experiences are. And then we fire them or we promote them based on how they interact with others, how they fit within the culture, and how they show up at work.
Yeah.
So behaviors in many instances of certain types of jobs are much more important than knowledge, skills, and abilities because we have a wealth of resources available to businesses for training and development.
Yeah.
It's easy to train someone in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, even computer programming, because if that aligns with what drives them, they'll learn it and they'll be excited about it.
It's funny. I
don't think people always have that point of view. They're looking to match someone exactly with their job requirements.
Yeah. You want to hire good people, not necessarily good people who have good experience, because that person may not be a good worker, may not fit in your culture. Looks good on paper, and the other thing is I think a lot of people like to learn new things on their job, throughout their career. So, because it's fun. Let's face it, you learn more things, you're doing more things. I think it's more fun. So if you get someone who, is willing to learn and can learn, I think you're going to have a better employee. It's funny, you mentioned behaviors, and I'm going to tie this into background checks, of course. But a background check focuses on a person's past. When you think about it, obviously, no one wants someone who has had really bad past behaviors, because the thought process is that they possibly can carry that past behavior into the future. But when you mention behavior, one of the things we also offer is a social media check. So, and it's funny, it's kind of a gray area now in the background check industry, but on a more general term, what I think about is, you do someone's background check, they have a clean record, you do a reference check, resume looks great. Now, it looks great, but you don't know if this person is a good fit for your culture. And one of the things I think is pretty cool, that when you do actually look at someone's social media, now you're going to get a more current behavioral aspect of the person, and that might be a better predictor of if they're going to be a good fit for your company and your culture. Because when you think about it, what people put on social media, that's what they feel comfortable putting out there for the entire world to see. So, and if you see some really crazy things, well, that's the person's current behavior. I don't know if you guys ever thought about doing social media checks.
Yeah, a little frightening. But
Big brother,
here's
right?
my take on that. So say you're a high extrovert, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have a much larger presence on social media, and you're going to be much more of a sharing person,
Sure.
sharing your life, and that's how you communicate versus someone who's introverted. So a social media background check is going to reveal a lot more about someone who's extroverted than someone who's introverted. And introverted people can do crazy things.
Yeah.
They're just going to do it by themselves, probably on their computer, and not share it with the rest of the world. I would also say that salespeople are not known for conforming to all the social norms that society would maybe want us to follow in business.
True.
But if you're looking for a salesperson, you want someone that's not afraid of no. You want someone who's willing to take a risk, willing to do something outside the box. I'm certainly not suggesting that we want people to engage in unlawful behavior, but
Right.
I think you have to be very careful about what you're looking at and what that reveals about the person. And if you're only going to hire people that have a spotless image on social media, I think most of the millennials are now out of the picture.
Yeah.
I come from the baby boom generation. I'm right on that cusp between baby boom and Gen X.
Right.
I have an intentional presence on social media because none of it existed in my college days. But if somebody would have followed me around at the time with a GoPro,
gosh, I'd be in
there's
jail.
certainly some interesting conversations that we could be having today. But all of those things I've learned from, right? You learn from the mistakes that you make in life, and I think certain generations' mistakes are going to be much more visible to others than generations that are coming from a little bit older time. So I would only suggest a social media background check when you have an extreme high-level position where the public persona is absolutely critical and tied to the brand.
Yeah, that's one of the things we promote, and that's one of the things that I always find useful.
You're going to learn things in social media that you may not want to know. You're probably going to learn someone's sexual orientation.
Yep.
You're going to learn their gender expression. You might learn their marital status.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and those are all things that we can't make job-related decisions on. But now you have it.
Well, here's the thing: the social media check that we offer it's actually artificial intelligence. So there's no human eyes that are doing this checking. So it's gonna pull up like racism, cursing, violence, drug use, any of those things. So that's one of the good things about that. But it's funny you mentioned, like, because in college, I didn't have cell phones in college, so, and thankfully, and nowadays one of the reasons this social media check has become a little bit more popular, and I think it's actually unfair. You'll see a lot of young people. I think about it with athletes when they become drafted and they become professional. You get these people who go back and dig up these old posts from when they were like 16, and we've talked about this in past episodes. But you're a different person when you're 16.
Politics is a great example of that. They'll take a tweet or something from 8 or 9 years ago, and it becomes the forefront of the conversation.
Yeah, of the election, it's crazy because you're a totally different person when you're especially a younger person. You're developing your personality and whatnot, so you can't really, it's tough.
Well,
but,
you don't even have a fully developed frontal lobe until you're 26. So I think anything prior to that maybe should be not included.
Yeah, I don't even think mine's been developed yet.
As irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. So another thing, like, even back, you talk about the years ago with the recruiting and so on. So how has that changed a lot? I mean, obviously technology-wise, but are you seeing in terms of different personalities from years ago when you interviewed and recruited than you do today?
No, I think the biggest change there's a couple changes today. So from the candidate view, they're a little bit more thoughtful. They ask better questions. I think their focus is on quality of life. People are more sensitive to commuting because that's a huge piece of work-life balance, or the ability to work, a hybrid or somewhat remote schedule. From our client's point of view, people are actually much more appreciative.
Oh, really?
They understand the challenge of what does it take to fill a position and what is all involved in that process, because they're hearing their business owners around them that can't find people, are struggling to fill positions. It's a bigger topic on the news, the Great Resignation.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think people are actually giving us a little bit more space and definitely more appreciative. I mean, we've been doing very well. So we only recruit for existing clients that we have a deep relationship with. But in that space, we've been able to fill, positions in 30 days, 45 days.
Wow.
And our cost per hire is 15% or under. So it's being on it every day, all the time, using multiple mediums to connect with candidates, doing outreach. But it's definitely a little bit different space, and people are not as available as long. So if you have a good candidate today, the client needs to be prepared to move.
Yeah.
But again, I think they're a lot more comfortable making decisions when they have good data.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned. There is more to come. And don't forget to subscribe anywhere you listen.